If I've said it once, I'll say it again. But if there is something running at me and I can't physically see it, I am packing my things and moving immediately. And with that being said, let's jump right into tonight's story. So grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you another scary Appalachian story, because of course, this is Tea After Midnight. This story comes from Liv. Hi Savannah, my name is Liv, and I'm a huge fan of Tea After Midnight and wanted to contribute some stories from my childhood home in West Virginia. Of course, all names are changed except my own for others' privacy. I was born in Wisconsin but moved to West Virginia when I was 6. Because of that, I did not learn Appalachian etiquette until I was much older. However, I had at least heard of creepy tales about creatures and unexplainable circumstances from places deep in the woods. My home was in a decently populated area with houses neighboring ours, lit street lamps, and little traffic. Not the usual place of Appalachian horror stories. Directly across the street was a small patch of woods. I thought because it was not a huge forest, it wouldn't count as an area needing supernatural precautions. Needless to say, I was very, very wrong. My sister Emily and I would sometimes walk the trek of woods from one end to the other. It started down the end of our street, and there was a well-trodden path that led all the way to the other side. It was relatively straight, but one side of the trail steeply plummeted into a creek at the bottom. The other side was a steep incline headed upwards to the top of the hill, so the only way to safely traverse the woods was this trail. At the time of this incident, I was 8 and she was 10. We were walking as we usually did when we heard running footsteps behind us, crunching on the leaves. It was uncommon but not unusual for us to interact with others in these woods, so we turned and stepped to the side to let them pass, only there was no one in sight. Emily looked at me concerned and we laughed it off, thinking it was probably a squirrel. Continuing onward, we walked for a few minutes before we heard it again. It sounded like heavy stomps, moving quickly like it was lightly running. We looked at each other and I glanced behind us to see if it was a person, but again, no one was there. An uneasy feeling crept up the back of my neck. I asked Emily if we could turn around and go back home since that direction was shorter from where we were. Emily shook her head and whispered that we should keep moving forward. Heading toward the unusual is what idiots in horror movies did, so we continued on. Since we were both young, unsupervised girls alone in the woods, my sister always brought our father's pocket knife with us. She took it out and opened it up, putting her free hand in mine. As we continued walking, we noticed that the sky was getting dark. It was only 1 or 2 in the afternoon when we started our hike, so the sun setting should be hours away. The uneasy feeling grew stronger, and the usual noise of the woods had gone very, very quiet. Concerned, Emily clutched my hand tighter, and we started walking so fast I almost had to run. That is when I heard what I thought was my father's voice shout my name from behind us. I went to turn, but my sister dragged me forward. Then I heard the running footsteps again, heavy and sounding like a large person was running full speed at us. Scared, we both started running as fast as we could to get to the end. I glanced back to see the fallen leaves shift and crunch in time with the running steps, but there was no figure making them. We made it out of the woods and collapsed in the parking lot. The sky brightened and the noise of the woods returned, and the footsteps behind us were gone. Needless to say, we never went back into those woods without our parents or our brother. After that instance, though, strange things started happening inside the house. Over the years, there were mysteriously moved items, flickering lights, strange handprints on the second-floor windows, dead animals on the porch, and strange creaks on the stairs. My parents never believed or saw any of these things, and they would always disappear or be normal when brought to their attention. After a while, Emily just started avoiding places in the house and eventually forgot about these things. Yes, I asked her about them, and yes, I tried to explain, but she would just shake her head and tell me not to scare her and go about her day. Fast forward years later when I moved out at 18. I lived in 2 different places over the next few years with minimal supernatural experiences. A few months ago, my washer had broke, and I went over to my parents to wash my laundry. Their washer and dryer are in the basement. You have to go down the stairs and to the left around a wall to get to the laundry hallway. At the bottom of the steps to the right, there is a makeshift wall using a refrigerator box to make a room for my younger brother. He likes to decorate with LED lights and has all sorts of cologne, shoes, and electronics. I say this because he always sprays his cologne so the basement smells nice and keeps his LEDs on either white or yellow settings. Another important detail is that me and my siblings had always agreed to skip the top step when going up or down the stairs. It made a loud, distinct creaking noise any time there was pressure on it. That was our childish way of knowing if it was our parents on the stairs or someone we didn't know. This time, when I went to carry my dirty laundry downstairs, I noticed a dull red glow. I thought that was unusual, but not impossible if my brother wanted low light. I called his name, but there was no response. He was not home, and neither were my parents. I felt an eerie feeling creep up my neck. I shrugged and walked downstairs while skipping the top step. As I got closer to the end of the steps, I smelled a rancid, suffocating smell. The best way to describe it is if there were rotting leaves and mold in a bag in your face. Very strange, but I went ahead around the corner and the smell went away. I shoved my phone in my pocket and turned off the hallway light, leaving just the dull red LEDs glowing to guide me. Immediately, I had the strongest urge to run. I was confused as to why, so I quickly went around the corner and up the steps. I get to the top step and skip it to stand in the doorframe. Suddenly, I hear stomping footsteps behind me running up as fast as it can, and the distinct creak of the top step being touched. I whirled around while backing up to close the door on whoever or whatever was behind me, but there was nothing. I felt the immense feeling that I was unwanted, and I ran for the front door. I went out and locked it with shaking hands and darted to my car. Nothing seemed to have followed me, but I kept repeating under my breath, "You are not welcome to follow me. You have to stay here." I felt relieved after I was outside and started backing out of the driveway. That's when I glanced up at the living room window, a giant clear square that was easy to see from the floor below. A figure, dark and featureless but too tall to be any of my family, was standing in the center. I panicked and tried to grab a picture, but it disappeared as soon as I looked away. I plan to never go back to that house alone ever again. So guys, I know we have an episode where somebody had sent me a story where something was running full speed at them, but they couldn't see it. And like I said in that episode, if that ever happened to me, I would be packing up and moving immediately. Because these type of stories freak me out the most. I think, honestly, I would rather have something that I could physically see, like a creature or whatever it is, running at me because I know what it is, I know the threat, but something that I can't see running at me, that freaks me out the most. So Liv, if you're watching this video, if you wouldn't care to let us know if your family still lives there, do they experience anything? And did you ever tell them about what you experienced? And anybody in the comments that has any idea of what this could be, please let us know, because I don't personally know of any creature or anything like that that you can't see but you can hear running at you. My thought would be that this is an entity, but again, I could be wrong, so you guys let me know what you think this could be. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal scary stories you want to share, I would love to read them. You can email me at the email on the screen or the email in the caption of this video. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. I hope you have the best night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.